Hi everyone, Andrew here again. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. I'm just out and about for my walk around the beautiful Lao Cai here in Vietnam. And I'm back using the Dji Osmo Pocket 2 and I've pretty much dialed in the settings that I'm very happy with now. I've got the 2.7K resolution, I'm on the 60 frames per second. I'm using the Pro mode, I've got it set to 120 shutter speed. I've got it set to an ISO of 100 and it seems to be coming across really good. I've got color profile set up and I'm just enjoying this process of tweaking and twiddling and messing about until I find what I think is the perfect settings. I'm also using face track at the moment, so that obviously if I move my head off screen, the camera's going to follow me. And if I go low, it's going to follow me as best it can, and up and down. I think that's a great function, and sometimes I don't use it when I'm doing the walking around videos like this because it tends to struggle to find my face sometimes if I've got a hat on. But I think it's quite cool. Certainly it's a nice function for certain things when you're actually walking about. I'm just trying to find a slightly different way to walk here to the main road. I'm just as I say, messing about with some settings, and I'm going to leave them as set so that nothing changes. Obviously we're going to see a little blowout in the sky behind me, but that's fine. The key is to keep my face as focused as possible. Let me just flip the camera around so you get to see what I get to see. I've also fixed the white balance so it's going to stay the same all the way through, because again sometimes in auto mode it wants to change. And because I'm outside and pretty much my environment's not going to change too much, I thought I'll just stick it in a manual setting so it doesn't alter as I move around. And the same with the ISO being at 100, obviously as low as possible there. I don't want any extra light being let in, let's say, and I've got the shutter speed set at the 2x rule, so if you're filming at a frame rate of 60, then 120 is generally the ideal frame rate for a video, just to give it the natural blur effect of how the human eye would see things as well. And I'm using the plug-in wireless mic, but with the lavalier attachment again. Thought the sound was quite good yesterday, was quite happy with that. Be interested how this scene comes across here. It's very bright in this area. I see the EV compensations having to adjust. I quite like the idea of that. It's adjusting very, very slightly based on my settings. Ultimately it wants to try and get back down to 0. And obviously as this scene darkens up a little bit with walking under the trees, it should do. But yeah, we're into March. What is it now? 3rd of March. I've been out every day walking and talking and getting my steps done, which is the important thing. My journey of losing weight and getting healthy doesn't stop. You keep going. Obviously getting out and about walking, so many cars and buses and things just beep as they drive down the road, and it really is a standard thing over here that people are used to, but I'm not quite used to it. It's still a bit too shrieky, some of the beeps, for sure. You may hear that as it comes across on the microphone. We've seen that one the other day, didn't we? That's the oops, that might be a bit juddery. As I walk past Highlands Coffee, back up the road towards my hotel, ready to do some editing on this video and get it uploaded. Enjoying watching the golf at the moment. Live Golf back on in from Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, and Anthony Kim is back. He didn't play very well yesterday, but having been out of the professional game for 12 years, that's to be expected. It'll be interesting how he performs today and how he performs tomorrow in the final day. Live Golf being 3-day tournaments, individual player event, but also a team event. I quite like the concept. 54 holes, which is 3 days rather than 4 days. A normal golf tournament is 4 days, 72 holes, and a cut after 2 rounds normally, and then the top so many players go through to the final 2 rounds. But in Live, all players play all rounds. Just different. Like I say, to anybody who asks me, really, it's just nice to have so many different options to watch golf, not just PGA Tour, not just European Tour or the DP World Tour as it's called now, but also this new format, this new one, and with John Ram joining this year, and potentially some other top players switching over. Be interesting to see how that goes. So I'm enjoying watching that. As a golf fan, someone in the golf industry and a golf professional myself, it's always good to have lots of options to watch the best players in the world competing. They don't necessarily all have to be competing against each other. I just like to see them playing their golf and how they adapt to different golf courses, how they adapt to different styles of courses in terms of the weather conditions, in terms of the setup, in terms of the tournament style. I just like seeing that and looking at that from my perspective. Yeah. Just saying earlier on my live video there, I'd love to do some on golf course videos. I've seen a lot of the YouTube golf creators filming themselves playing golf on a golf course and describing how they play the hole, going into some detail about that, and even with some of the collaborators. It's good to see them explain how they hit the shot or what shot they want to hit and what process they're going through. I think that's actually quite a difficult thing to do. You know, talking about the shot you're going to hit just before you play it is not natural when you're on the golf course. You might think about it, but actually talking it out loud might unsettle them a little bit, and maybe that's why some of these golf creators don't play as well as they perhaps would do if there was a different scenario without the cameras. But yeah, I think I want to do that at some point. I need a certain type of tripod, I think, for that. I've got a standard tripod, but opening that tripod up after each shot and putting it away and getting ready for the next shot, I think is a pain. So having a monopod style would be the way, and being able to just take that out and sort of put it in the ground and hit your shot, talk to the camera with a wireless mic, and then move on to the next shot. It'd be great to take people through not only what is my planned shot, but also what my reaction is to that shot and how I get myself back into the mindset to play the next shot that's coming up. Because mindset is a big thing for golf. It's one thing having a nice golf swing, it's one thing being able to score well, but you know, when things are not going very well and you have to rely on strength of confidence and ability in the mind, it's so important that you work on that aspect of your game as well. And most people play a golf hole not really having any idea what they want to do. They're probably focusing far much more on what they don't want to do, and then they wonder why they hit a bad shot. And it's not always the case they hit the one that they've been fearing, it's just they don't hit the one they actually really wanted, and because they didn't define it particularly very well in their mind before they hit the golf shot. And for a simple tip right now, when you're about to hit a golf shot, you want to ask yourself a quick question. What is the desired outcome? What would I like to have happen here? And that's being very positive, asking yourself, where would I like that golf ball to go? What would that look like to me if I'd managed to achieve that right now? And just spending a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, just going over that and painting a picture in your mind of what you would actually like to have happen, and staying away from any negativities that might come up, as in, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I don't want to do this, or I always do this. And just focusing on what it is you actually want to have happen, and keeping that very much in the positive, so that you're more likely to hit a good golf shot in that scenario. It's not guaranteed, of course, but if you're thinking bad thoughts and you're not ready for your golf shot and you're in the wrong frame of mind, it is more likely that you're going to hit a bad shot. It's more likely you're going to hit a shot that doesn't have a result that you really wanted. And then if you hadn't even planned or told yourself what it is you actually wanted, how can you judge yourself anyway? Quite often a golfer will hit a golf shot with no plan of action, hit the golf shot, then react to it, because as soon as he's hit the shot, he then decided what he wanted to do and measured his shot against that. Whereas he should have done that before he hit the shot and said, this is what I want to have happen right now, and get yourself mentally prepared for that. Back to the camera, I'm seeing a lot of blowing out in the sky, interesting. Can't do much about that. As long as my face is in focus, that's the key thing when I'm looking at it from this perspective. It's focusing on me, not the background. To get a lot of detail in that background, you'd need a different camera lens, a different setting. And in fact, if I stand here now and I actually touch the screen more where that area is, At the moment I've got it on my face. I'm just seeing it might actually make a difference, but it can't really focus that far into the distance because it's a short focal length for some vlogging. So although I'd love it to be perfect, it ain't going to be the case, but I like the fact that it is good quality zoomed up. I like the fact that it is stabilized from the gimbal, and when I do turn it round, it does a good job from this angle, although that's very bright on the screen. I know on my iPad later on it won't be quite as bright as that, but it is a bright sky, guys. I'm looking at it with my own eyes, and there are some patches of grey in the sky, but generally speaking it is a white out. And maybe at this point this is where I would go back into the settings, which I can't really do right now, but I would alter things. Let me stop the video and come back with a slightly altered version. So I've made some changes then. As you can see now, the clouds and the sky are much more well defined. Very simply, I've changed it to auto exposure. So now it's going to keep it in good exposure. Now if I flip it around to my face, let me just flip it around to me. It'd be interesting to see how that copes with the sky when it's focusing on me. I honestly think, you know, messing around too much, because I'm moving from environment to environment. Like now, you can see right behind me, very, very much blown out. Let's have another look in the settings. There we go, guys. You'll see the sky's a lot better now in terms of I'll tell you what I've made a change to. I've changed the shutter speed now to 1/500th, and it seems to be much better. I've also changed the ISO to maximum of 100. But interesting, it might still appear a little bit too dark on the screen when it's looking at my face, but the sky itself looks pretty good. It's telling me that it's exposing, or EV exposure -1, so it's darkened up the image a little bit. Let me try again in the settings. I think we've got it dialed in there, guys. Made a slight adjustment again to that shutter, and it's only having to tweak the EV very slightly. But it's interesting that when you have it in full auto mode, it doesn't quite get that background right. So let's try again. Now I've really changed something there. I've gone into full auto, but I've changed the EV value to -1.3. Now that might make my face look a bit too dark, but the sky now looks like it's looks much better now. And you see it's gone really dark there, hasn't it? So let's change that again. And I've just changed the EV setting to -1. Again, that just darkens it up just that little bit. And interesting, on my screen here, the clouds and sky look pretty well defined. But again, what it'll look like on the iPad, we'll see when I get back and do some editing. But I'll leave it on that setting, I think, for now. I certainly think it needs to have that adjustment. I've noticed every time I've filmed that if I do make that slight adjustment, the picture quality is better. Full auto mode tends to overexpose the video. Interesting what it looked like when I flip it round. Again, it appears quite dark on my little screen in front of me. Just adjusted the EV range to -0.7. just to see what that looks like. Again, still feels a little dark. And now we're at 0.3 on the EV exposure. Interesting. We'll just try one more setting back on auto. Apologies, not on auto. We're on 0 compensation for exposure value. And that's one thing I wanted to just double check. I think 0 is good when it's pointing this way. And when it's pointing at my face, it's also pretty good as well, but it just seems to blow out a lot here. Now, definitely when I look at it on the iPad, it'll be different, but I'm just trying to get that perfect setting. I don't think there really is a perfect setting, and certainly there's no perfect setting that you can set in the camera and be able to tell very easily. Yeah, just, you know, continuously messing. I suppose that's why people love just leaving things in auto, isn't it? Because you don't have to do these changes. It'll do them on the go, but it's still making its own estimation as to what is correct exposure. And obviously I'm learning and want to learn as much as I possibly can, and messing around with the exposure settings is part of that learning process. So I've set I've changed the shutter speed, which darkened it just a little bit, but then obviously it's changing it's keeping the ISO steady at 100. I've locked that in, but it's changing the EV value. But it looks good to me on this screen, and that's what it's about, I suppose, at the end of the day. there's not much I can do until I look at the video later, but every time I do one of these videos I'm learning something new, and eventually I'll come up with my own I suppose perfect settings for different scenarios, so that when I do the videos there's not as much experimentation going on and you can concentrate a little bit more on whatever content it may be I'm discussing. But today's content, as it has been for the last week, is about my testing and experimentation with the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. And I'll just leave you as always with my 3 key mottos: get up, get out, and get it done. Do something today to improve your tomorrows, and what can be measured can be improved. Stay safe. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe, and then keep in touch when I release new videos with the, I suppose, the automated notification. You can see as I'm walking into the hotel now, those EV settings are completely wrong for this environment. So I'm going to do one last test. See now, much better. I've gone into full auto mode. As I'm walking back inside, it makes some sense to do that because obviously it's a different environment, it's a different lighting. But yeah, here's a darker lighting. Let's see how it handles that. It's not making any compensation, it's not making any adjustment. It sees me, but my face is very dark on the screen. It'd be interesting how that's coping. It's just one of those videos, I'm afraid, with lots of different me stopping and starting, messing around with the settings. But hey, that's how we learn, isn't it? You know, trying, experimenting, trying something different, noticing if it's working, changing it if it's not, and then trying to get to the ultimate. I think with the screen being so small, it's difficult to do this. I would be able to plug it into my iPhone, but I haven't got the little adapter cable anymore that enables me to connect it directly to the gimbal. But yeah, it's just interesting, the different settings. I think in general the auto setting is going to be the best, and then it can focus completely and utterly on content as opposed to keep trying to change those manual settings. Because once you set the manual settings, you can't change them during the video. It's not, you can't change them on the fly, which is, I suppose, one of the downsides to the DJI Osmo Pocket 2. But setting it to auto and letting it do its thing, I think, will be the way forward for me and these videos. So take care. I'll see you again soon. Stay safe.